Hey, guess what? It's another date night here. Sportsman Channel. I'm Scott Leysath, the sporting chef. Got a couple shows on Sportsman Channel, The Sporting Chef, and Dead Meat TV. I'm making fish cakes. You know, when in doubt, make fish cakes. If you've got some random pieces of fish in your freezer, now's the time to use it up, right? We're being very creative at home these days. Nobody wants to go to the store. Going to the store is kind of a pain. And so why not put together a great meal on a Friday night date night? You got a little wine, you got your loved one with you. Let me show you how I make fish cakes. Now, fish cakes, you can use your favorite crab cake recipe. It works just fine. The whole idea is you want to have it to be just moist enough so that it holds together. If it's too dry, it's going to fall apart. But you don't want the whole thing to just be a bunch of breadcrumbs. I'm sure you've had fish cakes or crab cakes in the past where there was more bread than fish or crab. Well, that's not going to be the case today. All right, here's what I had on hand. I've got some onions. You can use green onions, white onions, doesn't really matter. Let's say you don't like onions, don't put any onions in. I've got some fresh garlic because I always have fresh garlic on hand. If you don't, you can use powdered garlic, the dried garlic. You can use dehydrated garlic chips. The stuff in the jar you want to use more of than the fresh stuff because it just doesn't have nearly as much flavor. I've also got some beaten egg yolks, and this recipe, or a recipe very much like this, is on the sportingchef.com website, but we're making this up as we go along. I've got a little Dijon mustard. And the breadcrumbs is going to be part of the binder. Now these breadcrumbs, I found a box of pork panko. Now, you know what it looked like to me? I didn't buy this. I think somebody must have given me this. It looked like if you take pork rinds, the chicharrones, and you grind them up, that's pork breadcrumbs. You know, no carbs. You got the pork thing going, and it'll actually give it a little bit more flavor. I've got some mayonnaise. This is Kewple Mayonnaise. If you've ever seen that in the stores, K-E-W-P-I-E. It's an Asian style mayonnaise and it's really yolky. It has a really, really pronounced yolky flavor. Here's some fresh basil, I know. I'm gonna save a little bit because there's not a whole lot to go around. I found some fresh basil in the refrigerator. High Mountain Bayou Bass seasoning. If you don't have the High Mountain stuff, salt and pepper will do. Most of your recipes for crab cakes and fish cakes, or a lot of them, will have Old Bay seasoning. Old Bay seasoning works really well in this, and it's going to make it taste very much like the crab cakes you're used to, especially if you're from the Eastern Shore. All right, so that's what's going to hold the whole thing together. This is halibut and salmon that my son Jake caught in Alaska this last summer. And if all you have is leftover fish or any kind of random pieces of fish, mix it up together. I want to make sure this fish is dry. I've dried it in 2-ply paper towels so that it shreds easily and I don't have a bunch of funky fish juice here. So in order to shred it, you just take a fork, you just kind of shred it up like this. It's not critical. I like it to be kind of pea-sized, PEA-sized pieces. And then once I get it out here on the all spread out, I'm going to season it a little bit also because, as my mother always told me, you want to season the fish and the sauce, and the breading, if you've got a marinade, you want to season both. Salmon's going to be a little more difficult. I'll chop it up. This is king salmon and halibut from Alaska. From one of my favorite places. Talon Lodge is where I fished with in Sitka, Alaska. You know, this summer, a lot of the lodges are getting beat up because a lot of people aren't traveling. So there's some really good deals out there. I'd highly recommend that you start looking for some deals later on in the summer. You know, you can catch king salmon into September and then you get the sockeyes. Let me just keep shredding this up. And very often, if you have fish cakes or crab cakes, they're deep fried. I don't like them deep fried, it's just personal preference. I like to have them just pan fried. I like to get them brown. I'm gonna put some more of that Bayou Bass seasoning on there. Remember, you season the fish and you season the sauce. And I just noticed that this is a very unusual date night because my wine glass is empty. I've got some Michael David Freak Show Chardonnay. Excuse me. You know, it all makes it worthwhile. It is date night, and you are snuggling up to your special somebody, or, you know, maybe your dog. All right, so all gets mixed together. This is, if you weren't looking, this is where I'd be using my hands, but I'm gonna have to get to my hands eventually anyway. You want this to be more moist than you think it should be. And you know, if you wanted this to be a little bit spicy, you could either put some red pepper flakes or a little jalapeno pepper in there. Remember, the whole point of this exercise is to stimulate some creative thought and to get you thinking about what can I do with what we have on hand. I don't want to go to the store. It's one in, one out. You know, they're probably not going to have half the stuff you're looking for. This is unfortunately not a great time to buy fresh fish, although if you live anywhere near a marina like a dock, you know, my friends in San Diego are making some insane deals down on the docks. You go down there and when the boats come in, everybody's staying safe. They've got their masks, they've got their gloves, everything's sanitized. This is the best time in my memory that you can go get some really good quality fresh fish if you live in a place like San Diego. My buddy Tommy the Fishmonger, formerly Tommy from Catalina Offshore Products. You're going to hear a lot more from Tommy. He's been on Bizarre Foods. He's been on my show. He's been on The Prophet. And here are my fish cakes. Now, I know this looks really moist, right? I'm going to put a little bit more of my breadcrumbs in there to help bind it together. It's kind of a feel thing. And I'm not going to play around with it a whole lot. I'm only going to flip them once. If you find that your fish cakes tend to fall apart, put a little either flour or a little masa flour on there, and that will help bind it together. If you put it on the fish when it's wet, it'll dry it out and it makes everything else stick a little better. On the Dead Meat Show this past season, we did the Asian carp thing. If you've ever seen the YouTube videos of carp flying out of the water and hitting people in the back of the head or in the back, that actually happens. We were with Peoria carp hunters in Peoria on the Illinois River with my buddies Austin Gouldsby and Dirk Fushik from Dirk's Fish and Gourmet in Chicago. And I'll tell you, it was some of the most fun I've ever had. But the point is, if there is one, Dirk at his place made carp cakes. I know what you're thinking. Carp cakes sound really delicious. Give me a minute. I'm going to clean my hands.
All right, so we're putting this fish into the grinder. It's a fine grind that we're going to do here. This holds most of the bones back. Any small bones that might get through are basically just calcium for us. So we're going to add a little bit of dill here, red onion, capers, pepper, a bit of kosher salt, and a little bit of mustard sauce. This is our own secret recipe mustard sauce. We put a little panko in this, guys. Just helps hold it together a little bit. So that's how easy making a burger is. It's actually harder to catch the fish than it is to make the burger. All right, these are wet cedar planks. You want to make sure they're damp and been soaked for a couple hours. These are the burgers we just ground and back. This is a teriyaki burger. I brushed a little teriyaki sauce on top just so we know which one was which. This is a salsa cilantro burger, kind of southwestern style we call it. We're going to put the cedar plank on the grill, and it's going to give it the flavor. The smoke has got the resin from the cedar in it, and that's what gives it the nice smoky flavor. It's one of my favorite ways to do all kinds of fish, Asian carp in particular. So I'm going to close the lid now, and we're going to time this, give it about 15 minutes. All right, so we're going to dress up these burgers. It says this is a Cuban ketchup with a little bit of that we make here. It's kind of like a tomato jalapeno chutney. I'm going to dress this one up for Scott with kind of just a basic burger, right? Lettuce, onion, tomato and all. We're going to just do the southwestern style burger on this one. Then I just want him to try this burger, is our teriyaki burger here. This one, I just want him to try straight up. That way he tastes the carp in full. But I want to have this one as an American burger, so since we now have American Asian burger.
All right, that was fast, right? Hands are clean. I don't want to burn these guys. I just want to get them lightly brown, and of course I don't want to overcook them. So let me give this a flip. Once I get them browned on both sides, I'm going to finish it in the oven. And once it goes into the oven's set at 350 degrees. That'll finish cooking them internally. While that's happening, I'm going to make a little sauce. That one's going to probably fall apart. I'm going to season a little bit on the outside of it now. Two more minutes. All right, so brown on both sides. I can feel they're firming up. I'm going to pop this into that oven. 350 degree oven just for a couple of minutes, just to finish cooking all the way through. I'm going to top it with a little spicy mayonnaise. If you don't like spicy mayonnaise, if you'd rather have tartar sauce, whatever it is, it's yours, not mine. So mayonnaise. This is a little bit of lime juice. This is lime juice out of a bottle because I didn't have any fresh limes. Apparently I used them all with my other drink that I drink. There's some garlic, some sriracha. You make it as spicy as you want to make it. A little bit of onion. Got a Meyer lemon. You know, I have a friend of mine who hates Meyer lemons. He says, what's the point of a Meyer lemon because they're so sweet? And says because they're not tart enough. Well, then don't use it like you would a regular lemon. If you've got Meyer lemons, I kind of like them. I think they're really juicy. And a lot of times what we do when we have something acidic like lemon is we add a little sweetness to it. You don't have to with the Meyers. These are ready. So you know what you could do with this? You could make little bite-sized fish cakes and then just kind of have a little bit here and there as you go along while you're watching Sportsman Channel at night. Now let's say that both of you don't want to watch Sportsman Channel. It's okay to mix it up a little bit. You know what else is okay to mix it up? If you're making a batch of fish cakes, or if you're making a chowder or a stew or a soup, using up that fish and game that you've got in the freezer, a lot of your neighbors don't hunt and fish, and they don't know just how great fish and game tastes. So now, with the current situation, if you make a big pot of stew and you break it up into batches and you put a little note on it and you tell your friends you're going to leave a little special something for them on the front door, it's better than a lit bag of who knows what. So you let them know that it's coming over, give them instructions on how to reheat it, and maybe they're going to share a little something with you. Maybe they've made dessert and you can have a little dessert. So this is a really good time for us all to get a little bit creative, be nice to our neighbors. This is going to bring out the best and the worst in a lot of people. I'm going to garnish that and I'll put just a little squeeze of the Meyer lemon on top. I'm going to wash the whole thing down with a glass of this Michael David Chardonnay. Here we are, yet another Sportsman Channel Friday night date night. I've made fish cakes using the fish that I had already in my freezer. If you can avoid it, don't go to the store. It's crazy out there.